forest, there lived a woodcutter and his wife, and 2 children, a little boy named Hansel, and a little girl named Gretel. They were so poor, they had very little to eat, and the woodcutter could not stop worrying about how to feed his children. "What will become of them?" he asked his wife one night. "We have barely enough food to last the week." "I will tell you," answered the wife, who was the children's stepmother and a wicked woman. "Early in the morning we will give them each a loaf of bread, and we will lead them into the forest where it is thickest and leave them alone. They will never find their way home again, and will have to learn to fend for themselves." "I cannot do that," cried the woodcutter. "It would break my heart to leave them alone in the wilderness." "Oh, you fool," said the wife, "then they will starve, for we have no food to give them. They stand a better chance in the woods, where perhaps a stranger will find them and take pity on them. If you cannot do it, I will." So at last the husband consented, and the wife decided to set out at sunrise. But the 2 little children had not been able to sleep for hunger, and they overheard what their stepmother said. "Don't be afraid," Hansel told his sister. "I have an idea to help us find our way home again." Early the next morning the wife came and pulled the children out of bed, saying, "Get up, you lazy bones. We are going into the forest to cut wood." She gave them each a loaf of bread, and they set off together into the forest. They walked all morning, twisting and turning through the old trees, deeper and deeper into the woods. But Hansel was careful to walk behind, and every few steps he tore a small piece of bread from his loaf and dropped it on the ground. At last the stepmother stopped and told the 2 children to sit on a log and wait for her. Then she disappeared into the forest. Gretel shared her bread with Hansel, who had dropped all of his to mark their path, and they went to sleep. When they woke, it was getting dark, and no one had come to take them home. "Wait a bit, Gretel, until the moon gets up," Hansel said, "and then we will be able to find our way back by following the crumbs." So when the moon rose, they got up, but all the breadcrumbs were gone. The birds of the woods and fields had picked them up, and now the children were truly lost. They tried to find their way home, but only went round and round in circles. They walked through the night and into the next morning, finding berries to eat now and then. At last, just when they were ready to give up, they came upon a little cottage in the woods. When they came nearer, they saw it was built of gingerbread, and its roof was made of cakes, and its window of sugar. "We will have some of this," Hansel cried. "I will eat a piece of the roof, Gretel, and you can have some of the window." So Hansel reached up and broke off a bit of the roof, just to see how it tasted, and Gretel stood by the window and gnawed at it. Then they heard a thin voice call out from inside, "Nibble, nibble like a mouse who is nibbling at my house." The door opened and an old woman came out, leaning on a crutch. Hansel and Gretel were very frightened and dropped what they had in their hands. The old woman, however, nodded her head and said, "Ah, my dear children, how came you here? You must come indoors and stay with me, and you will be safe." So she took them each by the hand and led them into her little cottage and fed them milk and pancakes with sugar, apples, and nuts. After that, she showed them 2 little white beds, and Hansel and Gretel went to sleep and thought they were in heaven. But the old woman was really a wicked witch who had built the gingerbread house in the woods to trap little children, and then she would eat them. Early in the morning, before Hansel and Gretel were awake, she got up to look at them, and as they lay sleeping so peacefully, with round, rosy cheeks, she said to herself, "What a fine feast I shall have." Then she grasped Hansel with her withered hand, led him to the stable, and shut him in. Call and scream as he might, it was no use. Then she went back to Gretel and shook her, crying, "Get up, lazy bones. The
water and cook something nice for your brother. He is outside in the stable and must be fattened up. And when he is fat enough, I will eat him.
Gretel wept bitterly, but it was no use. She had to do what the wicked witch told her, and so the best foods were cooked for poor Hansel, while Gretel got nothing but crab shells. Each morning the old woman visited the stable and cried,
"Stick out your finger, little boy, so I can feel it and tell if you are fat enough to eat."
Hansel, however, would hold out a little chicken bone, and the old woman, who had weak eyes, could not see what it was. She felt it and wondered why he was not getting fatter. When 4 weeks had passed, and he seemed to remain so thin, she lost patience.
"Now then, Gretel," she cried, "be quick and draw some water. Be Hansel fat or be he lean, I must kill and cook him."
Poor little Gretel trembled with grief, but she knew that now was the time to find her courage. "I must be brave," she told herself. "The only way I can save Hansel is to keep my wits about me and watch for my chance." The old lady, meanwhile, had built a fire, and flames were leaping out of the oven.
"Creep in," she said, "and see if it is hot enough."
But Gretel saw that the witch meant to shut the oven door upon her and let her be baked. So she said, "I don't know how to do it. How shall I get in?"
"Stupid goose," said the old woman. "The opening is big enough, do you see? I could get in myself."
So she stooped to put her head in the oven's mouth, and Gretel suddenly gave her a push, so that she went in all the way and shut the iron door upon her. Then Gretel ran outside and opened the stable door. "Hansel, we are free," she cried. "The wicked old witch is dead." Out flew Hansel like a bird from its cage, and they danced about and kissed each other. Then they searched the old witch's house, and in every corner found pearls and precious stones. "Now away we go," said Hansel, filling his pockets. "If only we can get out of the witch's woods." When they had journeyed a few hours, they came to a lake. "We can never get across this," said Hansel. "Here comes a white duck," said Gretel. "Perhaps she will help us over." So she cried, "Duck, duck, here we stand, Hansel and Gretel on the land. Stepping stones and bridge we lack, carry us over on your nice white back." So the duck carried them over, and after that they went on happily until they finally saw their father's house. They ran till they reached it, rushed through the door, and fell on their father's neck. The poor man had not spent a happy hour since he had lost his children. His wicked wife had died, and he had wandered for days through the woods, trying to find his little boy and precious girl. Then Hansel emptied his pockets, and the pearls and precious stones were scattered all over the floor. So all their cares were at an end, and they lived happily ever after. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful evening.